Welcome back to the Newell Elementary Science Fair Project Student Handbook. In this video, we will be looking at the last two steps of your project. That's Step 7 and Step 8 for both projects, experiment and research, designing your display and your student logbook. So at this point, you have finished your experiment, you have finished your research project, and you are ready to set up your display and get it ready to be turned in and displayed at Science Night. For Step 7, when you are designing your display, you're thinking about how you're going to display your project. And this display is a summary of your project. Given all the information you've gathered, you're putting it on the board so that others can see what you did in your experiment or did for your research. Because they weren't there, you have to show them what you did. You need to keep every section clearly labeled. Make sure everything that is handwritten is very neat and legible. You are free to type things up and put it on your board. You don't have to handwrite it. You want to make sure your board shines. Give it some of your personality. Add some pretty colors. Add some jazzy little stars and whatnot. Make it interesting to look at. But not so much so that you take away from the work that you did, because of course the focus is the work you did. Make sure you've labeled all the parts of the experiment with the steps of the scientific process. This is for your experiment, but also for if you did a research project, make sure you have each section clearly marked on your board. The display should be on a freestanding display board. That means that you can set it on the floor and it's not going to fall over. You can buy three-fold project display boards at Walmart. Usually the school store offers them for sale as well, but you don't have to use one of those. You could get a cardboard box, take one side off of it, and boom, there you have three sides that you can display something on. If you choose to use poster boards, you're going to need to find a way to make it be able to be supported and stand up on its own. It cannot lean against the wall. It has to be able to stand up on its own. Make sure you give yourself enough time to do a good job with the display. This is how you're representing yourself and your project. Take your time and make sure everything is very, very, very neat. You will not have space to bring in any objects to show off your experiment, so make sure that you're taking pictures and keeping all of your information in your logbook, and you'll display your pictures on the board. So going back to our fertilizer example for our experiment, you cannot bring in the actual plants you used. You're going to need to take pictures of them and display that on the board. There's not enough space for you to bring in the plants. Very important, make sure your name, grade, and teacher's name are on the back of your board or on the flaps, meaning not on the front where your experiment is displayed, but on the back parts. So it can either be on the very back or on the flaps that fold over. Make sure it's also on your logbook, because your logbook will be with your display, but there's always a chance your logbook will get separated from it when we're setting up projects. So make sure your name and grade level and teacher name are on your display board and on your logbook. If you don't have your name on it, we're not going to be able to judge it for the final night. And your teacher's not going to know who it is, so she probably won't grade it, or he probably won't grade it. Research projects only. It's a good idea to organize your board based around your three guiding questions. They can become your headings on your display board. So, speaking of our student logbook, Step 8 focuses on that. You need to be keeping track of your information throughout the entire process. Whether you're doing an experiment or whether you're doing research, you should be writing down everything you have learned, everything you've done. It's suggested that you use a one-subject notebook, but that's not required. You could just have loose leaf paper you'd staple together or fold it over, or maybe you have some kind of two-pocket folder you keep everything in, but you need to have your information together in some kind of logbook. And your logbook should include the following things. For experiments, you should have your research notes and your experiment proposal. That's part of this handbook. The question you're using and why you chose it. Your hypothesis, your list of materials, your procedures, your observations and your data, your conclusions, and then any references used to support your ideas. Those are those resources that you used originally in your research. For research projects, you need to make sure that you have your three questions about your topic that's used to drive your research, your research notes, your graphic organizer, your rough drafts of evidence with evidence of editing and revising, and then any references used to support your research. Again, those resources that we talked about way back around step 2. So once you have all that information and you've again checked out your rubrics to make sure that you have everything that you need for a successful project, then you're ready to turn it in. And final projects, once again, are due on January 17th. Always refer back to your due dates in your handbook. January 17th.